Scandinavian way that matters.
Yes, I can see. Grew up in Norway,
100 Swedes were chased through the weeds by one Norwegian.
Two T's, two C's with Buzz and two T's with Patterson.
It's two T's.
Skipper.
Or in general. No, yeah, we can make time to talk about what it looks like. So
Buzz, do me a favor. You see the distance between your head and the top of your frame? There we go. Thank you. But DC is already learning.
I haven't done any of my. I didn't put any lights down or lift up my plaque yet.
That's okay. You are right in the center, which is good. No, we cannot push you. Let's see. Skipper, nothing. There's no signal coming this way.
He's probably got an unplugged
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode live of Veteran Nation. Joining me, the skipper, as always, is my co-host, TC. TC, how have you been?
It's been a great couple of weeks off.
Yeah, we took a couple weeks off as a new season here at Right America Media kicks off. So,
which season are we kicking off, Skipper?
well, fall. Yeah, I guess this is like our sweeps. See, you get a couple weeks away from me, and already we're right back into it, and you've already had enough. We're what, 20 seconds into the first show?
Is it season 2, Skipper? Is that what is this season 2? What are we at, Skipper?
You know, we actually
you gotta have enlisted guys with commissioned officers, because if you don't, the commissioned officers go straight off the rails. It's like trying to. It's like me. I'm Jill Biden trying to guide Joe to the podium at his speech. That's every show with you.
You have equally as hard of a job as Jill Biden does with that.
I might actually have a harder job.
But did you enjoy the couple weeks off?
Well, I was off from this, but I still had my stuff going on. So.
Oh yeah, I did see you had a couple of really good shows.
I've been planning an event.
I noticed that, and that's up there in Minnesota where you're at, right?
Yeah, is my banner on the way?
Your banner. Oh, you talk. Oh, the banner that I ordered one for me. We got to get you one.
Yeah, for the show. Yeah, it'd sure be nice if you could throw that in the, express it overnight or something. That'd be nice, because I'd like to have it for Saturday. But
once we get all this converted over to a nonprofit, yeah, we'll be getting a lot of that type of stuff because it's. People don't know. People who are watching, doing a podcast actually gets very expensive.
What do we have to do to be nonprofit? I'm not making a dime.
There's no profit in this. But
you keep talking about this nonprofit, and I'm like, I've been there for the entirety of my stint on the show, Skipper. So
you should be very thankful. It's much like being an officer and enlisted in the military. I'm dealing with a lot of attorneys and a lot of laws, and you're just going to reap the benefits when I'm done.
You sound like you've also been dealing with like weather changes or something. What's going on with your voice?
Football. Yelling at the TV. I lost my voice. I'm a guy who I come from Ohio, so I had to watch all my Ohio teams, Toledo and Ohio State. And, yeah.
You could have made an actual really good story about that. You could have. It gave you the perfect opportunity to say, I was yelling for help at a beach or something, but no, you had to admit you were
So I did I did a poll yesterday because I wanted to see, did people want to hear about one of my interesting stories, or did they want to just hear from our guest, Buzz? And hands down, everybody just said, put your stories away, let Buzz talk. So yeah, my stories are
So
not as interesting as our guest.
no, absolutely, I agree. You know, and for those of you who are wondering what Skipper and I were talking about, across the United States this weekend on September 10th, uh, Defend the Guard. If you're not familiar with them, you should go to their website. Defend the Guard is asking for nonpartisan sponsorship of their legislation that will require the states, when they pass this, will require that before National Guard troops can be called up and sent overseas, whether it be Air National Guard or Army National Guard, before those National Guard troops can be called up and sent overseas into a war zone, Congress at the federal level, at the federal state level, Congress has to step up to the plate and do their job for once, for the first time since World War II, and actually declare a war. And
Very impressive.
One of the conversations that we had when I had Travis Bull Johnson, who's running for 7th District here in Minnesota, one of the things that we mentioned in our conversation with that was that I believe that since President Bush declared the war on terror after September 11th, and so the September 10th date is very pivotal. After he declared that war on that global war on terror after September 11th, 2001, the United States, or the state of Minnesota's National Guard, the Red Bull, they have been continuously deployed for over 20 years. And oftentimes, National Guard troops have made up the bulk of the fighting force across the global war on terror. Oftentimes, to the point where active duty troops, and I don't want to see any of our boys and girls killed, and I say boys and girls now because obviously we're seeing more and more women deployed into combat zones. But the idea that the active duty in particular are deploying less than the National Guard is troublesome. And so what Defend the Guard wants to do is it wants to make Congress do a job instead of rubbering a war powers decision. We want to see Congress actually take the reins of that. The people have a say. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you can watch my video on my channel with Bull, or you can actually just go to the Defend the Guard website. Either one. I would like the views on the video. That'd be great. But I would love for people to check out the website. And this is a big event. We're not, across the country. Our speakers in Minnesota, one of them everybody will have heard of, and that's Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota. And then the other one is a guy named Scott Horton, who is a scholar. He's not some, as I've described him, he's not a patchouli bathing, pot smoking. Well, I don't know. He might smoke weed. I don't know, but he's not a patchouli bathing, incense burning hippie who lives in a grass and dirt shack somewhere in the middle of the mountains like Ted Kaczynski. He's an actual scholar, and he comes out of Texas, and he's going to be one of the two keynote speakers, him and Jesse Ventura. And we've already got a broad range of people running for office in Minnesota across the board, Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, who are all willing to say, if I win, I will either author, sponsor, or co-sponsor or co-author this legislation at the state level. So that's a big deal.
Well,
it goes a long way to taking.
It's a very important issue.
Hey, Buzz, thanks for coming on tonight.
And I think our guest will definitely have an opinion about presidential power because he's written about it. Buzz, how you doing?
Hey guys, fantastic. How are you guys doing?
We're living the dream.
We got 2 weeks off. Going great.
Oh yeah, so I
my story is 20 years in the Air Force, pilot, um, solid duty in 69 countries over my 20 years in various capacities, and was asked to be President Bill Clinton's military aide and carry the nuclear football in 1996. So I did that for a couple of years, and I went back to the Air Force Academy and finished my Air Force career, and decided to start writing books and flying commercially. So I've seen I've seen the highest levels of government. I've seen the insidious nature of both political parties. I've been around President Clinton on golf courses and jogging on vacations, Air Force One, Marine One. So sorry guys, we're having a brownout here in California. So if I lose you, hang on. Yep,
You're fine. I got the exact
this is a
same message on mine. So
so yeah, so
Don't make
it's
me
pretty
carry
damn.
the show.
Well, yes, I'm not. Hopefully, I'll still be with you guys. But that's what that was, and because it's super hot here, and we're trying to do our best. But it's
I think I speak for all Americans watching this show, veterans and non-veterans alike. What was Monica really like?
well, okay. So I've got several stories for you guys.
Sorry.
let me start with Monica. So when I first got there, I got there in '96, and so as a military aide, you have an office in the White House and a bedroom in the White House. So I went everywhere that the Clintons went, including Hillary, and on Air Force One, Marine One for 2 years, and lived in the White House essentially. So when I first got there, this is a true story. When I first got there, I saw this young female intern who was about 20 at the time, and she had the same oval wing access, oval office access that I had. She had the same thing because they give you.
She had far different access than you.
She had much more than I did. She had much more than I did. But I kind of walked up to one of the Secret Service guys at probably about 2 weeks into my time there, and go, who's this lady? And they said, well, she's presidential best friend material. You don't go there, just let it go. So she was around
what?
Best friend material. So I let that go, and I knew the whole time. We all knew. It's the other thing, guys, is we all knew what was going on. I mean, Hillary knew. She to this day denies that she knew, but she knew, and we all knew. Well, she was thankful until Bill got caught, and then their lives turned upside down, right? So she became kind of the co-president when. So the whole thing with Monica had been going on for a couple of years, and then, if you guys recall, Matt Drudge, the Drudge Report, broke it, and then the next day the Washington Post actually picked it up, and that was the same day that I was the first person on President Clinton's schedule to go brief him on the nuclear codes and talk about the football and talk about how all this stuff works and ask him if he had any questions, and that was the day that he confessed to me that he'd lost the nuclear codes. And so there's a nuclear football, which is what I carried, which is a large black satchel, which allows the president to do whatever he needs to do and wherever he is in the world, or she. And then the president carries a credit card sized document, which is the codes. And we call it, the military guys being military guys, give it a nickname. We call it the biscuit because you broke into it to read the codes. So that was the morning that President Clinton confessed to me that he had lost the codes. And when I pressed him a little bit. This was the same morning Monica Lewinsky hit the press. So this is not a good day to be in the White House, right? I'm the first guy on his schedule, 7 a.m. in the White House that morning, and I walk in and I see the President Clinton behind his desk, his head in his hands, and he's been up all night long, and he knows he's in trouble. He's been caught. I mean, I'm sure Hillary was chewing his ass. And I asked him just to confirm whether or not he had the codes, because that's what my job was, and he said he had lost them. Now, the moral of the story, guys, is not that he had actually made a human error and lost the most important military document in the history of mankind.
That's not.
But that he
that's
had,
not
but he hadn't told anybody about it. It had been, when I asked him how long it had been weeks, months. He had no clue. So, because we changed the nuclear codes for the president, we change them out once a year, randomly, kind of once a year, but once a year. So I know that he didn't have any new ones, and he didn't bother to tell me that he lost the ones he had. And when I called the Pentagon to talk to him about it, they were incredulous. It had never happened in the history of the presidency. So that was my Monica Lewinsky story. I saw her around a lot. I knew there was something going on. I believe I saw her on Air Force One once because I also controlled the Air Force One manifest for passengers. And so, yeah, Monica was around even when Hillary got her reassigned to the Pentagon. So she went from being a White House intern to working at the Pentagon as an intern. Even when and Hillary did that. Even when Hillary kicked her out, they still got together whenever they could. And I walked in them one time in the Oval Office. So my 2 years at the White House was punctuated with a lot of really incredible happenings.
I just, I'm sitting here as an Army vet thinking there's a reason why the Air Force guy was responsible for that. The Army had other taskings, and you couldn't tell a Marine, this is the football and this is the biscuit, because the Marine would have grabbed the football, ran with it, and tried to eat the biscuit. So
here's the thing.
Fair.
Here's the thing.
That's fair.
So there are actually 5 military aides, one from each service. So we had a Marine guy there too, and he was the only guy that would jog on the beach with Clinton, actually carrying the football. It's 45 pounds. So the rest of us would put it in the frickin' Secret Service van and jog with him also, where the van was falling behind us so we could, immediately flip around. But the only guy that was dumb enough to run on the beach with it was the Marine guy. And that's the truth. And we had an Army guy too, and he wasn't, he's a retired 3-star now. So he was a pretty good guy too. And we had a Navy guy who was just the CNO of the Navy, John Richardson. So there were 5 of us, and then we were a really tight team, and we had our differences, obviously, but we had a Coast Guard officer, we had a Marine, we had a Navy guy, we had an Army guy, and we had an Air Force guy. And I was the senior guy for almost my entire 2 years, so I got to, because I was a pilot, I was the only pilot at the time, so I got to be in charge of Air Force One and Marine One, and work those operations as well.
Very cool. I think my favorite story that I've heard that I've heard some of you talk a little bit about was what you did with
go ahead, Skipper.
The Limbaugh letter.
Yeah. So the military aides, 4 of the 5 of us were conservatives, and we used to sneak Rush Limbaugh's letter onto Air Force One and put it in amongst the magazines, because the Air Force One it's a very nice 747-400, very nice, very big, beautiful airplane, 68 seats, and they always used to put the Washington Post, the New York Times, LA Times, whatever on the tables for the upper staff to read as we're flying across the pond. And I used to sneak Limbaugh letters into the stacks and watch them freak out when they actually saw Rush Limbaugh's in the reading material of Air Force One. So that was one of my most spectacular and, until this day, quiet things I ever did on Air Force One. But yeah, I used to sneak
you never tell a Marine a secret.
You guys, Marines have bailed me out. I'm telling you guys, Marines have bailed me out more times in my Air Force life than I can possibly imagine. I mean, I met my wife because I was bringing Marines out of South Korea. I was based in Yokota, Japan for 6 weeks and just flying around Asia. And the Marines were deployed to South Korea, and we were tasked to go up there and get them and bring them back down to Iwakuni And so I got up there. We were supposed to do one run one day and another run the next day. So we got up there, and I realized these other Marines, the second half, are going to have to spend another night in this bullshit PAX terminal at whatever base we were at, whatever base they were at. So I said, we're going to do it twice. We're going to go up and bring them back, get everybody else out. I talked to the commander and said, we're going to come back, we'll get you guys. And that's the only reason why I flew back into Yokota. And that's the same night I met my wife of 26 years. So we met at Yokota Air Force Base after I decided not to spend the night at Iwakuni and bring the Marines out of South Korea. So you guys have done more for me than you can possibly imagine.
Very cool.
So boy, that went straight to Skipper's head. So hey, I'm over here wondering. So you had 5 military attaches basically at the White House.
Yes.
So you had the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Please tell me there wasn't a Coast Guard.
There was a Coastie.
Was the Coastie the lefty? Was the Coastie the lefty?
He was.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me take that back. Let me correct the record.
Which is why they're now part of the Department of Homeland Security, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So when I first got there, the Coastie was a leftist, and then when I left, my best friend was the Coastie that came in, and he was not a leftist at all. He was so right. He wouldn't shake Clinton's hand on his final day in the Oval Office. He was like, "I'm done with this. I'm out of here." So that guy is still. He retired as a commander in the Coast Guard. He took his family to Tennessee. I still stay in touch with all those guys. Phenomenal people.
Very cool.
He got as far away from the ocean as you get without going to the Midwest.
Well, he's a farmer dude, and he has a farm, and he raises I don't know what he does, but he's basically lives off the land. He's a doomsday prepper, super cool guy. But he was so we had a Coastie.
So he's
on the
now
left.
he's now what you would refer to as one of those dangerous people.
Yeah, he's what is that? He's a MAGA
extremist, domestic terrorist.
Yeah, he's a semi-fascist, whatever we are. I mean, I don't even know what we are anymore. I lose track.
I told people the day after the speech. I said, "Well, now you guys are all welcome. Thanks for coming along, because I've been this guy for the last few years." So
yes. Yeah.
And
well, can you guys believe that speech? I mean, quite frankly,
Oh.
I mean, I probably saw Clinton give 200 speeches in my 2 years there at the White House, and he was, whatever you think of Clinton, and I kind of liked him personally. I didn't have any respect for him professionally, but I saw him give 200 speeches probably in 2 years, and he would do it off the cuff.
Speaker, by the way.
He was a fantastic speaker, and he could do it off the cuff, and he could speak to any crowd. And can you imagine the backdrop? I want to hear this.
In the sense of, as a person, in his personality, I like Clinton. But anyway, you were saying.
He was fun to hang around. We jogged. We went to the golf course together. We went on vacations together. I was always around his side, and I kind of liked him personally. I just, like I said, I didn't really respect him professionally, and there was a lot of reasons for that.
Did you ever smoke cigars with him?
No, but here's another. This one thing I did. I actually smuggled Cuban cigars. We were on a South American trip, and we were in Brazil and Argentina. And Clinton loves fine cigars, so he asked me if I would bring home a whole bunch of Cubans in the nuclear football, because back in those days that was prohibited, right? So, and the only piece of luggage in this country that doesn't have to go through customs is the nuclear football. So I stuck some in there and brought some home from my father-in-law as well, and stuck them in the football and brought them back, and he was a happy camper.
Well, Buzz, it was nice knowing you. The FBI.
Well, you know what? I'm still looking over my shoulder for Hillary. So I've been banging on her so long, not banging her, but banging on her.
Well, let's not go there.
for so long. I keep waiting for the people to show up.
Juan just gone. Juan just left.
Now, With a position like that, how long does it normally last? Do you go the full term, or is it normally just like any other built in the military where you're just there for a couple years?
It's 2 years. So in the
Okay.
White House, so it was a joint assignment job. So we were working for the president directly. He wrote my performance reports. Was President Clinton. So we were there for 2 years. Some guys and girls chose to extend. I did not. I wanted to get back to flying and get back to the Air Force. So I did my 2 years to the day. And I call it rebluing. I went back to the Air Force and commanded again. And I really missed that part. And I went to the Air Force Academy, which is fantastic. So I got to get a lot of that off of me. I remember the last day that I walked out of the White House, and I thought, because it had been guys, it's a struggle. It's 2 years of working for an administration, and you're on the road. I know, what do you guys call it in the Navy and the Marines? But I was TDY maybe 300 days a year for 2 years. I was
Oh
gone.
wow, that's a lot.
Either in the White House or on the road. And I was dating my wife. We were getting out, and we got married 1 year into it. So I was there for 2 years, gone constantly. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't do it again. And it's not a job you can apply for. So the White House actually called me as one of 6 people and said, "Can you come out and interview for the position?" And I knew the position existed, but I was a squadron commander in California and having the time of my life. I mean, Northern California, flying all over the world. I was a really, really happy guy. So when they called me out, I was like, okay, I'll go out and do this. This could be fun. And then I interviewed over 3 days. There were 6 of us from all the services. And I interviewed, and I remember on the second day of the 3 days, Leon Panetta was the chief of staff, and I remember interviewing with him, and he asked me, "Why do I want the job?" And I said, "Sir, quite frankly, I don't know that I do want the job. I'm really happy. I'm a squadron commander. I'm flying around the world. I'm dating a great girl. You guys invited me to come out here, and I'm not really sure that I want the job." So I walked out of the White House. What's that?
That got you the job.
It did. Because he called me in the hotel room. I was getting ready to pack up and fly the red eye back to California. And he called me in my hotel room and said, you told me that you didn't think you wanted the job, but if we offered the job, will you take it? And I said, well, yeah, let me talk to my girlfriend. And I did. And she said, you can't say no to the White House. And so I said, yes, I'll be there tomorrow to meet the president. And that's how the whole thing happened. I was in the White House a couple of weeks later. Literally, they interviewed me, they hired me, and I was living in the White House a couple of weeks later. It was crazy.
Was she a military gal?
No, not at all. She didn't know anything about the military until she met me. And she's sitting right over here. We've been married 26 years and have 3 kids, and she's listening right now, and she's fantastic. And she was.
Come over and say hi.
Come over here, honey. She's gonna come over.
I don't. She's like, no.
Her name is Nicole. Her name is Nicole. She's fantastic, and she's the reason why I'm here.
I'm not camera ready, so.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I can only imagine how a job like that, how hard that would have been on you.
She's 25 years younger than you.
She's 19 years younger than me.
I was close.
She's this.
You married an Air Force guy, and just speaking as a guy who jumped out of the kind of airplanes that he used to fly, we know what you have to put. We know what you have to put up with.
See.
Oh, yeah. It's a new journey every day. God's mercies are new every morning.
Especially when you're married to an officer.
Indeed. Nice meeting you all.
Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, she's the best. She's a sweetheart. Yep.
Now, have you?
We got married.
Improved our show ratings.
You guys, you need a little more of that. Actually, you guys need to freshen up a little bit, especially UTC.
I agree. I'm here to keep Skipper on track, and I I'm what makes the show funny, even though he brings the jokes.
And we have an
I think you
abundance
guys
of
are a
testosterone.
fantastic duo.
Buzz, I was going to ask you. So we kind of brought up the speech last week, but in a more serious note, when you look at that, I mean, we're all old enough to have sat through several administrations. You having experienced an administration, which at the time everybody couldn't believe, how far to the left, those, the liberals were, and but have you ever in your life experienced any speech from any president with the kind of background and that kind of military presence in what is really a non-military speech? Well, ostensibly a non-military speech. Have you ever experienced anything? I mean, in my life, and you and I are probably not too far removed in age. I age better than Skipper. Because I'm going to be 52, so you're not that much older than I am. So I've sat through several administrations, and in my life, I have never experienced what I experienced in that. And since this is Veterans Nation, or Veteran Nation, however you want to say it, the imposition of the military into that
Yeah.
setting, that is a troublesome, from my perspective, that's a troublesome
Precedent.
image.
Yeah.
It is a very troublesome image, very troublesome precedent. And the language and the rhetoric and whatnot that was involved really kind of draws the military into that, in having that presence there, and
Yes.
in the way it was presented. Do you struggle with that at the same way? Because I think there's like some sort of political future in your life, isn't there?
Well, I ran for Congress in California in 2020. I'm not running this time. I may or may not run again. We live in California because of our family and our kids, and it's a tough place to be a conservative military guy. And then they redistricted, so that they gerrymandered my district, and it became nothing actually. So I decided not to run this time. So yes, quite probably we'll run again. But what most angered me about that, and I've worked this stuff with the Clintons. I did a lot of events with the Clintons. I did a lot of the military background and making sure everything was appropriate and above board and legal. What really bothered me about that with the Marines in Philadelphia was, if it had been like a State of the Union or a non-political speech, I think it would have been okay. But when you're basically bashing for the most time of the entire speech, you're, number one, the red lighting was weird, right? Can we agree that the red lighting kind of reminded me of Hunger Games or something like that? Secondly, um, if you're going to use the military as a backdrop, don't make it a political speech. Make it uh, a national speech that does not bash the other side. Because as you're aware, all of you guys are aware, we as military guys, and I respected my oath completely, and didn't start talking about politics till I retired. So I didn't write a book, I didn't write an article, I didn't do anything, I give a speech until I retired from the Air Force in 2001. What angers me about that is some staffer, somebody in the DoD, and a staffer agreed that was a good idea. And that's what troubles me, because then you have it looking like the Marines are endorsing a candidate who's disavowing half of the nation. And that's not what our military is for. I kept my mouth shut for 20 years in the military. When I served at the White House, I was loyal to the president. I was loyal to the office. I did everything I could to keep him safe, out of harm's way, being embarrassed. All of that was my oath of office. and I did that gladly and happily. But now we have an organization, or we have an administration that is trying to use the military for props. And I have a huge problem with that, because I know deep in our hearts, probably 75% of the military does not like Biden, does not want to serve Biden. And that's probably a gross, but that's what it's been in the past. I mean, probably 70% are Republicans, 30% are Democrats. And we don't like being used. We don't like being used to go to war for the wrong reason. We don't like being used to go to fly in a contingency for the wrong reasons. And we don't like being used. All of you guys know we swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And I think that we can all agree that was what we had in our heart. And, and I came in under Ronald Reagan, and I served President H.W. Bush, and I served Bill Clinton for 8 years, and I served George W. Bush for 2. And I didn't care who they were. I didn't care what their stripe was. I cared that I could do the best possible job for them and protect America. And when I see Biden and Biden's not the problem, guys. I mean, he's not even smart enough to be the problem. So he can't remember anything. After he reads it on the teleprompter, it's gone. So when he came out the next morning and said he didn't say that. Well, he did say that, because we watched him say it. And it's incredulous to me that they use the military as props. And I'm going to say this. I mean, I've written 4 books about this. The Democrats don't understand the military. Republicans do, for the most part. We need leadership in this country that understands and respects the military and knows how to utilize the military. And we don't need to be the ones serving canapes on a tray at the White House, or standing up behind a president who's basically attacking his former opponent and soon-to-be opponent again.
And every veteran knows that that whole image with the Marines in the background totally violates DoD policy. And I do want all of our viewers watching to know, I am going to be doing an IG complaint about that. The officer who approved it, the commanding general who had to have been on board with it, they all should be reprimanded for that. And I'll probably do that live here on the channel, or at least put it out on Twitter so that everyone can see. But that's what I'm going to be doing. I encourage everyone else to do that, because our military should not be a political prop.
Well, yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, that'll be the end of Skipper's other Twitter account. So I quit trying to follow. I co-host the damn show. I can't even follow all the accounts. I try to tag Veteran Nation, and when I start to type it in, there's like 14 options. I'm like, I don't even. If I tried to tag them all, I'd run out of things to say, because it'd just be tags that all said Veteran Nation. So.
Well, I tagged you guys, so I'll be a follower now.
Oh, we do have a video about the speech, so let's go to that real quick.
Hi everyone, this message is for the President of the United States. So if you know someone close to him, please tag them so they can bring this to his attention. My name is Alma Ohiniopari. I'm a person of faith, a husband of 16 years, and a father of 4 wonderful children. I am also an immigrant to the United States of America. I came here at the age of 19, full of hope, optimism, and a willingness to do what was necessary to achieve the American dream. After 18 years of waiting and hoping, I was finally granted the privilege of becoming an American citizen in 2021. Today, I am a proud American, a law-abiding patriot, and a man willing to defend the principles and values that made America great and brought people like me here. Mr. President, I am also a conservative Republican, or what you have recently labeled a MAGA Republican. Over the last few days, you have looked into the camera and called me and millions of other people like me extremists. You have told me and my children that we don't matter to you because of our beliefs. Your spokespeople and the media have labeled us dangerous, full of hate, and a threat to democracy. You went as far as to suggest that we would not stand a chance against the government's F-15s in defending our country from tyranny. Your party leaders have taken your cue and called us terrorists, and all this without taking any time to acknowledge our humanity, listen to our concerns, or seek to understand our fears. I was born in a country where my rights were not always guaranteed, and to hear the President of America and the leader of the free world dismiss more than 70 million of his own countrymen as fringe and extreme and not worth listening to breaks my heart and makes me wonder what I should tell my children about the future of this once great shining city on a hill. This is the reason many of us embrace the call to make America great again. It is because we believe our great nation is under a moral, fiscal, and spiritual assault. We are MAGA because we want to restore the promise in the hearts of our children that this is the place where their efforts will be rewarded and where their true potential can be realized. We are MAGA because we believe in freedom of speech, the freedom to exercise our religion. We believe in limited government and the rule of law. We are MAGA because we love the Constitution and believe our founders established a means for we the people to defend it from enemies both foreign and domestic. I am MAGA because I want to be able to look into the eyes of my 4 black children to assure them that they're not victims, that they hold inside them what it takes to achieve anything they set their hearts on. We believe our leaders should put America and its interests first before any other nation. We believe our government should not saddle our children and grandchildren with insurmountable debt, chasing after a misguided idea of controlling or changing the course of the climate. Millions of us were horrified to witness what happened on January 6th and believe that justice must be served. But we also see through the attempt to paint all Republicans with a false moniker of insurrectionists and to conflate the genuine misgivings of those who feel disaffected and disenfranchised with an unfounded accusation that we are somehow against democracy. We are MAGA because we love law enforcement, but doubt whether the Justice Department or the FBI can be trusted to deal fairly and impartially when they have given us clear and repeated evidence of their political bias against half of the country. As a new American, this November will be the first time I get to exercise my right to vote, a right I've waited nearly 2 decades to earn. I understand the urge during an election season to attack those you see as political opponents. But Mr. President, I am not your enemy, and the tens of millions of MAGA Republicans are not filled with hate towards anyone. We love this country. We are heirs of the great legacy of freedom this country has afforded us, and wish to exercise our right to be heard and not demonized. So I ask you, Mr. President, to tear down this wall of divisiveness and division that seeks to pit your fellow citizens against one another. Heed your own call for unity and lay off the rhetoric that seeks to demonize and defame millions of people who would give their lives and fortunes to defend these United States. If you believe in the redemption of America, then give my children a reason to hope, a reason to believe that our best days are ahead of us, in spite of the challenges we face as a country. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's been the show.
That's a
Wow.
really great way of summing all that up. I think, I can agree with every single point he made.
I don't know how you couldn't.
There are those out there.
No, I don't.
And
I
it's
don't know. I'm just.
it's
This
kind of
This
scary.
goes back to what introduced us to each other, which was my series on my channel about how the military is being co-opted and corrupted, and Buzz. It doesn't take a lot for somebody who's sitting on the outside who has any kind of military experience at all, and I don't have anywhere near the kind of career that you had, Buzz, for sure, or even Skipper or Juan. But all it takes is to have been in the military and have sat through briefings and deployments and the threat of deployment and on and on and on, to recognize that the military is being co-opted. It's being co-opted, and it's being indoctrinated, and it's being turned into a giant social proving ground. And I was having this conversation with a friend today, and I said that you look at the rates of PTSD and all this other stuff that are in complex PTSD, all of this stuff that's rising in the military, and we're seeing 22 or more vets a day take their lives. And part of it is, I hate to say it, but it's because they feel like tools. They feel like nothing more than a drone who's being sent off to fight a war they don't even themselves oftentimes understand. When you get almost a full generation removed from the cause of a war, whether or not you agree with the start of the war and what caused the war in the first place and the justification for it, when you get almost a full generation removed, and we judge a generation now by 30 to 40 years. So we've got 20 plus years, and we're sending these guys off. Some of these guys weren't even born. They weren't even born. And you're putting them into this harm's way for something they can't grasp and understand.
Right. Can I tell you a story?
And then we make the military pawns in commercials and recruitment ads, and we put Marines out behind the president in an inflammatory speech. And they're like, is this why I served? Is this why I served? Who's going to take care of
Yeah.
me? Because now everybody's going to hate me. Go ahead, Buzz. Sorry.
Yeah. So in 2005, when the Iraq War was going bad, I embedded myself. I got the Pentagon to give me journalism credentials, and I embedded myself in Iraq and hung out for the first time. Actually, I'm an Air Force guy. Hung out with the Navy. I'm sorry, the Army and the Marines for a couple months. I went all to all the FOBs, and I remember one night I was in the dining hall, and CNN was blaring, and I was getting ready to go out on this convoy with this scouting thing with a bunch of Army reservists from Youngstown, Ohio. And I remember sitting around and I said, can I come over here and eat with you guys? And the food was delicious, and we're all kind of getting along. And they were 18, 19-year-old kids. This is 2005. And they were talking about their girlfriends back in Youngstown. They were talking about their families. I said, how's it going over here? And this was like July. It was like 125. It was freaking hot. So I'm talking to these guys, and they were just like, they were kids. They were high school kids, basically. And then we went out and put on our armor and put on our helmets and jumped in the Humvees, and they were steely-eyed American killers. And the juxtaposition there to me was dramatic, because here I just been talking to them about their high school girlfriends, and then we go out and climb into Humvees, and we're going to start driving around West Baghdad, and they became the professionals that I knew that the U.S. military is. And I think it goes across all services. I think that we have been dumbed down amazingly. The new woke Pentagon, I'm actually writing a book about this right now. The new woke Pentagon, right now, to me, is the biggest security risk this nation has faced in a long time. The fact that we're promoting all the wrong people, and then we're not promoting the right people, and we're doing it all based on looks, or creed, or color, or trans, or whatever you are. The Air Force Academy is a perfect example. We're picking all the wrong people for these senior leadership positions, and we're not focused on winning wars anymore. General Milley is great on wanting to understand white culture and how white people are extremists, but he doesn't want to figure out how to kick Russia's ass. And I have a huge problem with that. I mean, I think that we have our values and our focus on all the wrong things, and we're becoming the Obama version of what the military, what he wants our military to be. And as military guys and girls, we don't want that. We want to be the most effective fighting force on the planet. We want to protect our shores. And what we're turning into right now, we're turning into frickin' Denmark in terms of our social mores and norms. And,
I
it's
think
just not right. And
I think you're absolutely right
The
because
question, the
in 2010, when Obama was in, that's when they decided to shrink the force. And that's when I started
yes,
seeing people who were not of the caliber that we really should being allowed to stick around, and people who are really good being shown the door. So people who are watching who
yeah.
maybe don't have an understanding in the military, this is a multi-year process. It started in 2010. We're now in 2022, and these people who were back then, yeah,
Hey Skipper, it started under Bill Clinton because I was there and watched it. It started in 1993, 1994 years, and so Clinton started this role. George W. Bush kind of pushed it back a little bit, and then Obama just rolled it. And now Biden's doing whatever Obama tells him to do. But we're not the same fighting force we were, guys. Not even 20 years ago.
absolutely.
We can't win wars right now. We can't. We're not even allowed to win wars right now. So
I feel like the question, Buzz, isn't whether or not we're prepared to kick Russia's ass. The question is whether or not our troops are ready to kick Ukraine's ass when we start fighting them, because that's always the pattern.
well, that's that's next,
know?
and then that's next, and then it's going to be China. Just trust me, China's going to
You want to
Taiwan.
know, as Dave Smith has on his podcast, Part of the Problem, he opens his show with one of his clips of, you want to know who our next enemy is? Look who we're funding right now. And that's
I'm noticing a lot less Ukrainian flags on Twitter. Let me put it that way.
Well, yeah, a lot of them
well,
ate some crow when they started realizing that some of
Yeah.
these Ukrainian units are very much ingrained with the old German SS units and use the same imagery.
There's that, and there's the money we're spending, and where's that? We don't need, so we're sending over billions to Ukraine, and we don't have a mechanism in place to actually track where that money goes. How much of that money do you think is actually going to rebel units in Chechnya, or, wherever? I mean, we don't even have the manpower on the ground to track where the 18 billion we've sent so far is going. It's ludicrous.
I mean,
and
the
it's
closest we've come to keeping that amount of money here in the United States is to hire the new 87,000 IRS agents.
Yeah.
That are going to come and take your money
Exactly.
to send it to the Ukraine. So it looks like
Yeah.
Juan has another video for us, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is that a Marine Sergeant Major? Is that what that the one? As much as I know, I'm probably going to really like this video. This Marine Sergeant Major has already committed the one faux pas, which is doing a video in uniform, and I speak from her.
Everybody wants my freaking opinion on what's going on in the country right now. I'm not going to give it to you. You know what I am going to tell you? If you're a Marine, if you're a service member of this country, the United States of America, you got freaking one overall job and one overall mission is to be combat ready. You understand? If something happens and we go to freaking war today, tonight, your job isn't to be ready for a PFT. It's not to be ready for a freaking CFT. It's to be ready for combat. And if the balloon goes up, you and me and every freaking buddy else, we're getting on a plane, we're getting on a ship, and we're gonna go forward. And you know what? You're gonna leave every freaking thing that you got here stateside behind. And that includes your feelings about everything. All right? Don't freaking forget it. Sorry, Major. Out.
Beautiful.
Sergeant Major's going to get himself court-martialed, is what he's going to get.
Yeah, he is. God bless him. I mean, that's right. He's right on.
I may have been in uniform when I commented about Operation Task Force Ranger in Somalia after the news broke about the Black Hawk Down situation, and I may or may not have gotten called in front of my company commander for what I said.
Were you in Somalia then? Because I was there.
I was stationed at Fort Bragg during that, and they had locked down the post and wouldn't let any of the media onto the post anywhere near the gates. And I was standing in line in front of the Taco Bell in Hope Mills.
I know where Hope Mills is too.
Yeah, I was standing in line at the Taco Bell in Hope Mills trying to get inside the building because you know you only have an hour lunch, and there was a camera crew out there, and they kept putting their cameras in everybody's faces. And I know this will come as a shock to anybody who knows our show or my show, the one that introduced me to Skipper. And I finally got sick of the freaking reporter, and they're like, Specialist Pearson, how do you feel about what happened? And, you know, I'm like, of course, you know, they all know the military rank and everything down there. Because anytime you try that around my neck of the woods, nobody recognizes rank at all. But, you know, it's like, how do you feel about it, Specialist Pearson? And I'm like, you want to know the truth? You really want to know how I feel? I'll tell you how I feel. I'm like, President Clinton's a murderer. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, they asked for armor support, and the president said the optics are bad. We can't have armor on the ground because the international community is going to feel as if we're escalating this conflict. And I said, so all of those Americans that died and all of those Somalis that died as a direct result of political correctness, because we couldn't do what the military professionals asked. And the next morning, I may or may not have gotten called in front of the old man when the first sergeant walked out and said, Pearson, get your ass in the old man's office right now.
Even better, TC. So the Air Force was asked to provide AC-130 gunships over Somalia, over Mogadishu, and President Clinton said no. So we could have prevented that entire.
They were there.
They weren't allowed to fly. They weren't allowed to fly, though.
And Buzz, now you know why me and TC end up doing a show together, because we both have a knack for getting in trouble.
Well, I'm part of. I've been in trouble too. I come by my name, Buzz. Honestly, it's flying over the tower low in Egypt, in a classified location, because the people wanted a show. So I gave them a show, and a picture of that got back to my wing commander before I even got back to the States, and so that's where that came from. So we're all in good company.
I love pilot call sign stories. They're my favorite. I should have been with the Air Wing. I just never got the chance.
I can honestly say that the entire military history is thankful that you were never given the reins of Air Wings.
They gave me one, and that's a little suspect. I did it for a while, and Delta gave me the keys too for about 16 years. So
I'm just you know all the trouble we've had with the Osprey would have been compounded had Skipper been allowed to pilot.
I've been in the cockpit of one.
Well, I think Skipper and I would be good together. I really do believe that.
Skipper would have been really good at like bringing you a hot face towel and.
Actually, I think Juan and I would be a blast.
That's okay. When we get this thing with Veteran Nation, when we get it all set and we take this thing on the road, I got a feeling this is going to end up this could get kiboshed real quickly if we all end up in the same room together.
Oh, this would be fun. Let's do it. Be a blast.
Skipper wants to do a series of comedy shows, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody can handle all of that funny.
I will not be the one telling the jokes.
Thank the good Lord in heaven. Juan, do you have one more video for us before we end our night?
Yeah, let's go. Golly gee willikers, I'm excited to show up to the range 6 hours before we start shooting. Straight or die. Where was I going? Oh, work. That's right. Neat. How is this man in charge of millions of dollars worth of equipment, but he forgets his boots at least once a week?
So true.
Pretty accurate.
You know, the Coast Guard, the Coast Guard is so very, very happy that they got sent over to the Department of Homeland Security, so they didn't have to be part of that video chain anymore.
They've been trying really, really hard to be part of the Department of Defense. So when I was at the Pentagon, at the White House, they were Department of Treasury, and the Coast Guard aides were just incensed about the fact they were not part of the DoD. And they became the DoD for like, I don't know what, maybe half a second, and now they're DHS. It's just, I mean, God bless those people. I've got a lot of coastie friends, but it's just fun to poke them. And don't we all have fun taking shots at each other? I mean, this is what the military, nobody outside the military can do this, but we can do it. We can do it to each other, but nobody outside can do that. So that's beautiful.
People that call me a civilian today, I tell them I'm an uncivilian.
The Coast Guard probably stops more submarine attacks on the United States every year than the Navy has in a very long time. And that's for all my Navy friends, Travis, if you're watching. So, I mean, it's just true. I mean, granted, the submarines are full of cocaine and fentanyl, but, you know.
Before we wrap things up, Buzz,
I really appreciate you making time for coming on.
Yeah, we want to give you a chance to plug everything.
Oh God, plug stuff. Okay, well, just social media. I'm on Twitter at Buzz Patterson. I'm on Facebook at Buzz Patterson. I'm working on a new book that's not going to be out probably until November, December. I'm also on TruthSocial. I'm on Getter, all the normal places. I don't have a website right now because I'm not running for office, so which has been fantastic this time. So yeah, look me up on all of the usual haunts, you know, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I'll follow you guys back.
Go ahead, Skipper. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna see if you were selling any coffee today.
I'm always
not
coffee.
yet. You want some? You want some coffee? I'll send you some.
No, not you. You stay out of this. This is my show now.
TC sells coffee, and I'll be selling some stuff here shortly.
I've got some My Pillow stuff to sell and some coffee to sell as well. So, TC, take the lead on the coffee, but my coffee's better than your coffee. Guarantee you.
Is your coffee made by veterans?
My coffee is made and probably sifted by veterans all over the world, probably most often in Mexico and South America. Just guessing, but no, my coffee is not veteran coffee.
My coffee is made by veterans, produced by veterans, sold by a veteran, who's also the smartest guy on the show, by the way. So I'm just gonna, especially when he's on his show by himself. So yeah, I've got coffee. It is Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Muhlenberg roast. TC would love it if you'd all order some because it is.
Hey, TC, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
TC, do you like lutefisk?
You know, the right answer to that question would be what Scandinavian doesn't, and and then the right answer to that question would be this one. This one does not like it. I'll eat some lefska, but I will not eat lutefisk. And I live in Minnesota, and that's actually probably part of the penal code in Minnesota. There's probably a state statute somewhere that if you're Scandinavian and you don't eat lutefisk. And for those of you that don't know what lutefisk is, it's cod, for lack of better terminology, soaked in lye. There you go. That's all it is.
Horrible.
It's just cod.
It's horrible.
It's cod soaked in lye. It is. It's
horrible.
right up there with eel pout.
I don't know what that is, but that sounds horrible too.
Yeah, it's a Minnesota thing. But,
Well,
yeah,
I used to live over in Minneapolis for Delta for 15, 16 years, so I got turned on to all that crap. And you guys do have some good food. Lutefisk is not
we
one
got
of them.
great food. Just don't eat the Scandinavian stuff here because there are Scandinavians that don't eat it. They're like,
I'm Scandinavian, so I get it.
you want me to eat? No, I mean actual Scandinavians, not Americanized guys. I mean you.
Okay.
They're like, you want me to eat what? No,
Exactly.
I don't
It's
want
horrible.
to eat jellied. I don't want to eat jellied cod. That sounds disgusting. And you know what? It is. It's disgusting. But for those of you that have been paying attention, I intentionally slowed it down. The last video in the series on the USS Liberty will be coming out here in the next week. I put a space in there because, quite frankly, people seemed as if they kind of lost interest. So I want to ramp interest back up. We did have the guys on in a joint project between Minnesota Black Robe Regiment and Veteran Nation. Skipper and I sat down and talked with the guys from the USS Liberty Veterans Association, and the last video will be coming out. The last video is as good as the story is. Listening to the guys who actually went through that experience, the last video is actually probably more compelling and probably more heartrending when you understand not only what they went through that day off the coast of Israel, but what's continued to happen to them even into the modern era, if you want to use that terminology. So that'll be coming out soon. Check your local state for a Defend the Guard rally. We do know that they're attempting to get these going all over the state on the 10th, or all over the country on the 10th. It's a very good cause. It's time that we take the military back away from control of the military-industrial complex and put it back in the hands of the people. That's the military belongs to the people, not to the Raytheon and Boeing and all those others. And the decision should be in the hands of the legislators and not just in the president, especially when he loses the biscuit. So. And my Defining a Good Cop series is expanding,
So everyone check that out. I'll be taking the USS Liberty, putting it out on the Veteran Nation YouTube as well. We have the first 3 videos there. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow along and join the conversation on our Facebook group, Veteran Nation. And you can follow the show Twitter, which is @VetNationPod. Or if you want to follow me, so that I don't keep losing the show account, I am at @VetNationHost. So I think I might have figured out Twitter this time. I'll keep my opinions over on my one, and the show one, we'll try to keep that one alive a little bit this time. But I want to thank our guests. Buzz Patterson, thank you very much for coming on the show. We want to have you back. We're going to, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of different stuff here in the next year as we become a actual nonprofit. And if you would join us with that,
and I'll just
that would just be great.
Been nonprofit for me the whole time. I just want that reminder, Skipper. It has been nonprofit for TC for this entire time.
At least this way, you and I will be able to get the money that we spend on this show back in taxes at the end of the year, if nothing else. But really, we'd like to be able to raise money.
So once again, nothing.
But we do want to be able to raise money so that we can help veterans out there. So once we get everything established, I'll be pushing out just different ways for people to join, support our channels, support all of our different stuff. And then if you're a veteran who needs help, you'll be able to reach out to us. And yeah, that's what we have planned. TC, Buzz, thank you for joining us today. And to all of the viewers watching, thank you for being worth serving.